Welcome back to the show. Jim Chalmers' changes to the Future Fund are this morning being slammed by its architects, John Howard and Peter Costello. Joining us to discuss today's headlines, ALP President Wayne Swan and Independent MP Dai Le. Nice to see you guys. Swan, you got a smile on your face this morning, you little fiscal vandal.
Go ahead.
Well, when John Howard says something is fiscal vandalism, it carries a hell of a stick.
Well, how desperate is the Liberal Party that they've got to drag out John Howard and Peter Costello to make an economic
They're pretty
statement?
big, heavy hitters to drag out, as you say.
Yeah, but what they do know is better than what they're saying. The fact is the government has not changed the mandated investment return at all. And that is the critical point. I think Australians want their money invested in this country if they can get the required return. And what's wrong with saying that there are some national priorities? This is just absurd political criticism in the lead up to the next election. Nothing more, nothing less.
Because there's something just slightly off about off-the-budget subsidies for pet projects.
There is nothing slightly off about this mandate. The fund has to meet the mandated return. And all the government is saying is we're capital hungry for some investment in a few areas. And if you can get the return in those areas, take it.
Investments that suit your political agenda?
No, investments that suit the national agenda, because that's what the government's focusing on. What the Liberal Party's focusing on is the next election.
All right, Di, is it a slush fund?
Look, I think it's a fund that is for the future of Australians. And I wonder if when the government talk about their surplus budget, are they referring to this, counting on this fund? And I am concerned about Labor government spending responsibly. For me, if, the money that the government have already spent in terms of the renewable, the rewiring the nation, all of that still hasn't brought down the energy prices. As we all know, I have been in my community talking to many businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, who are actually on the brink of closing down. And they said that the energy prices have tripled, insurance prices have tripled. So I think there's so much concern in terms of the cost of living, the cost of doing businesses, that I think I just find that it's really concerning that Labor's now just looking for money somewhere to continue to spend without actually being responsible.
No, we're looking for money to invest in national priorities.
All right. So
that's what we're talking about.
Swanee, if we flipped it for a second, right? If the coalition decided, you know what, let's invest in fossil fuel projects to sustain our power grid while waiting for renewables, you'd be crying blue murder.
We would, and that's not what the government's doing now. The government hasn't changed the investment mandate.
What I'm saying is whatever politically suits you, you can use that fund to invest in.
Well, I don't think there's anything controversial about investing in housing and the energy grid. I don't think there could be anything more important to the future of the country in doing that. And if they can get the return, they should be doing it. And I think that's what Australians would expect.
Why not take it, seek a mandate in the next election if it's such a great idea?
Well, they are going to an election next year, and what Peter Costello and John Howard are on about is the election. That's precisely what they're talking about. They're not talking about the real issue.
All right, so they're not going to take it to Parliament or anything like that? They're just going to take it to the election?
Well, he has taken it to Parliament. He's announced it as they announce other policies. And people can make a judgment about the government's economic record at the next election.
There was no mention of the future funds at all in Parliament this week. Not that I, and the Treasurer did deliver his speech on the economy, talking about December being they will get a preview of the budget in early December. That was in his speech on the economy. But there's no mention in that speech about dipping into the future funds to invest.
Nobody's dipping into the future fund.
Well, but it sounds like they are. It sounds like, they are doing that, and it sounds like...
And Swanee, if it sounds like they are...
Well, not even the Liberal Party is saying we're dipping into the future fund. They're not saying that at all. They're saying something entirely different. Anyway.
All right, so you're happy for it to continue to go ahead and, and come what may?
The government will be accountable for all of these issues at the next election and at the parliamentary sittings that occur before then as well.
All right, speaking of elections, Labor has powered up its election team before December, so it looks like we're going early, Swanee?
I don't think so. Tell me all about it. Where did you get that from?
Well,
It's
it's
news to
a
me.
reliable source. They've hired digs in Surrey Hills. They've got their staff all ready. They're coming in December, and they're getting ready for potentially an election in April, which is a bit earlier than what we thought.
Carl, you're not hanging around Sydney enough. They hired those digs a long time ago in Sydney.
But they were ready for the election earlier.
Yeah, of course. And the
Di?
Liberal Party will have done the same. And so will Di have done the same.
I was ready the day after I got elected in May 2022. So.
Well, Di reckons, just between us, that you're in big trouble in Western Sydney, Swanee.
Oh, well, we'll see. I'll see you out in
Cost
Western
of living
Sydney.
is still an issue. Cost of living, I tell you. I've been
no
doing
doubt
nothing,
cost of living is the big issue in the election.
Yep.
Happy to have the argument and the discussion.
Energy prices, please bring it down.
Yep.
Insurance costs, rent, all of that. Freight as well.
There you go.
It's huge.
I can barely wait until the election. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Says.
Darley brought in donuts, so